Hello, everybody. This is the Dynamite dudes. This is Dominic D'Angelo of WrestleZone.com, and I'm happy to have with me here my degenerate brother. It's been a while since we've discussed wrestling on some sort of podcast kind of platform, but he is back. Degenerate Marcus D'Angelo. Marcus, welcome back to WrestleZone, the WrestleZone universe, so to speak.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure there's many, many people watching this right now. I thank you for joining us, our legions of fans, right, Dominic?
Legions. By legions, it's probably like half dozen.
Half dozen.
If we're lucky.
I'm blown away by half dozen. If that's where we're at right now, I'm.
Well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet because this is just being kind of recorded. So it's an optimistic guesstimate. Let's put it that way.
Wait a minute. So this is not live.
This is not live, Marcus. No.
I can say whatever I want then.
You could, but it's a lot harder to edit over video than it is over audio. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I'll try to contain myself as we go over Dynamite as Dynamite Dudes.
Dynamite Dudes, that's the name of the show. It's something we're gonna get into. We used to do a show on WrestleZone here called Get the Tray Tables, but the tray tables kind of got busted. So,
Dominic, I think that something like what we're doing here is something a little bit shorter, sweeter. It's going to be a little bit more palatable, not only for the audience, but for my wife, which is a very important thing.
I think your priorities are really misaligned. Let's be honest here.
Well, she's ruined my life. Let's face it. I used to be able to play WCW NWO Revenge in the living room. Now I've got to go to my man cave and hide.
Yes, weep, openly sob.
Yeah. I used to have wrestling figures all over the house. Now I gotta play in my basement, Dom.
Now you have a wall that you just stare at and wail.
A wailing wall.
A wailing wall, essentially. Yeah. That's not.
We're at the beginning of this, and we're already going off the rails. Let's talk Dynamite.
Yeah, we got to talk a little bit of Dynamite, Marcus. I don't know when the last time we recorded Get the Tray Tables, but was Dynamite even around at that point when we did it?
I want to say no. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna go with no.
No, I think it was a no too. So give us a little bit. First off, we know you're my brother. Tell these viewers here a little bit your wrestling background, what got you into it, who your guys are, and a little bit of that before we go into the Dynamite here.
All right. Well, Dom, actually, you got me into pro wrestling because you would watch it. You were a big fan of Razor Ramon back in the day. I feel like we'd be watching on like a Saturday. What was that show? Was that Superstars or Main Event or something?
With WF?
Yes.
I think we caught it the one time. I remember flipping through the channels and seeing Razor and be like, oh, that guy looks pretty cool. And I think it was a weekend show, whatever it was, but I don't remember what it was.
So I remember Razor went over, and then I think the next match on was Bob Holly versus some jabron.
Yeah, right.
And so as we were watching it, I was like, whoever wins this match, that my brother likes a guy that just won that one. I'm going to like whoever wins this match. Bob Holly goes over because he was just facing an enhancement talent. And I was like, there he is. Spark plug Bob Holly is my guy.
That's my boy.
Yeah. So then I stopped watching wrestling for like 4 years. That was it. I was like, there's my guy. And that's that. That's all I know about that. Stopped watching it for 4 years, got back into it. When you discovered that Scott Hall was now on the opposition, right? He was with WCW. And I was like, well, I want to be like my brother. So who is Scott Hall aligned with? Who's his buddy? And it happened to be Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
That's a lie. Huh? It started off as Macho Man.
He was in a tag match with Macho Man. This was like sometime in late '97 probably, or early '98, because Nash was out following Starrcade for a little bit, and so Scott was tagging with the Macho Man. So I was like, I like the Macho Man, but then I find out that his real tag team partner is Kevin Nash because we got those figures. We got like the little. Yes, the minifigures. They like inside the title belt, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" Kevin Nash. Perfect. There's my guy. And ever since, Dom, I've bounced around a little bit, but now I'm to this day diehard Kevin Nash fan.
Yeah, there you go, man. And what a trajectory Kevin Nash has had in his career. Like, would you ever expect him, like, still at this age, being in the amazing shape that he's in, and the fact that he's just like in movies and kind of still like carving a name for himself out there in the entertainment industry. Plus, he's just a unique personality too.
Absolutely unbelievable. It's Kevin Nash is one of those lucky few guys where like his name is still means something in and outside of the ring. So like if I'm at work and I make a Kevin Nash reference, most of the people know the person that I'm talking about.
Right.
And so that he's right on the border of household name, just like Scott Hall is, probably more as Razor Ramon, if we're being honest. But it's really cool what those guys have done. And actually, Dominic, this is the perfect transition into Dynamite, because Wardlow and MJF, Dom, they're kind of like the two dudes with attitudes right now, right? You've got the big heater.
Wow. I didn't think about that.
You've got the big heater in Wardlow. He's getting heat and still a little green. And then we've got MJF, who's the rising star, snarky, arrogant, super into himself. And Dominic, they're teasing a breakup a la two dudes with attitudes, are they not?
Little bit. I don't want that to happen whatsoever at any point in time. At this, like, I think it's way, way too soon to do anything to that effect. I don't want them breaking up. Yeah.
I could not agree more. And here's the major difference in why it's not going to work if they're doing this. So by the way, MJF getting his fist punched into Wardlow's face to basically wrap up the match. That's very Survivor Series Kevin Nash holding Razor Ramon and getting the super kick and then going down. And then a night or 2 nights later, he wins the title. So like this, it's a lot of similarities there. Here's the one main difference, and here's why it's going to be a problem, is that they have not been together long enough. Kevin Nash was the bodyguard for Heartbreak Kid for what, 2 years?
Something like that, right?
And in the interim, he proved himself to be like a guy on the rise. He won the tag team championships. He won the Intercontinental Championship. He's winning cage matches. He's like kicking ass in the Royal Rumble. So like Kevin Nash got all this build up and started to get a little fan support. Like, man, this guy's a real badass. And then they do, obviously MJF isn't going to be a baby face after they break up. Wardlow's going to be. So they need to build him and their relationship just a little bit more before they say, okay, let's push this guy to the moon. Which, by the way, they should, because he's an unbelievable talent.
Also a Dallas Cowboys fan, Marcus, just so you know.
Oh, and from Pittsburgh, I love this guy.
Well, Cleveland. He's from Cleveland, but he wrestled at IWC in Pittsburgh. So.
Well, he went down one peg, but it's fine. Now that I know he's not from Pittsburgh, I thought he grew up in Pittsburgh.
Oh, what? Would you prefer he be a Steelers fan, anyways?
Yeah, well, I'd prefer he be a Cowboys fan from Pittsburgh, like I am.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, it's I really like that opening match actually. I was talking to Kevin Kellum on the WrestleZone podcast about how I really thought, like, because back last week, the week before, I don't know how in tune you are with the ratings and stuff, but NXT won the ratings last week. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
So they won the ratings war. So I really thought that AEW was going to start off this week with the title match, one of the title matches that they had, to kind of like get that fan engagement already in there. Like, all right, there's stakes on the line here. So I was pretty shocked to see that as the opening match. But I really thought overall that it was a really great match, and like it told the story. You had the two feuds with Jurassic Express, and followed up with Wardlow and Luchasaurus going on. So having all that come into play, in addition to just being I think a very solid match. Like Wardlow had that amazing Hurricane Rana spot too. I was like, wow, that's pretty wild.
Oh man.
So
just unbelievable athlete. If he can polish his game a little bit, honestly, I see a trajectory as great or better than what Kevin Nash, his 90s counterpart, managed to accomplish.
Oh my, that's a high statement. Especially with wrestling just not being on the level as it was back in those days. I mean, I guess kind of if you look back though, when Nash was Diesel, it was kind of a low point too in wrestling, and
Yes, but here's what it really comes down to is he's got to be properly booked. And right now, I don't know if AEW is capable of booking him properly, especially if they're thinking about maybe this is like a very, very slow build of a breakup where it's like a year from now they're going to break up. These incidents are going to
be it. That could be it.
At least that's what I'm hoping is going on. I love the match as well, Dom. By and large, I thought it was great. The coordinated spots drive me absolutely nuts. I hate it. I hate the simultaneous kip ups.
I thought that was a little shoehorned in. I did not. I agree with you there. Like it was neat, like, but it was not. It just takes you out of it ultimately. Like you know what I mean? It's
and I get it. I get it. There's a demo of fans out there that think that that's where it's at. But like I'm still, this is one area where I really agree with Jim Cornette is like I still want to believe. I want to believe that they believe it's real. You know what I mean? I like when I see like Wardlow, for example, standing on the outside preparing himself to catch Luchasaurus. I'm like, it takes me right out of it. And I'm like, don't slap me in the face with the fact that it's not real. That's like me going to the movies and like the actors, they're in the middle of a scene and then they look at the camera like,
or they like slowly hold up a script like that they're
right. It's like, don't do that. We all know it's fake. Okay. We all know what's going on here. Don't mush my face into it like a dog that peed in the carpet.
No, I agree with you. There's so many. If that's one big gripe I have about Dynamite and stuff, it's a lot of telegraph spots where it's just like it's not necessary. You don't. I mean, I get that people want to show off their athleticism and like the business has changed in the move set kind of aspect of things. So it's like that's part of it, but you don't. You got to make it flow. And I've seen matches that's happened in where like a dive to the outside made sense or they made it make sense and stuff like that. But I will say MJF is somebody that's very stringent on that kind of stuff and he's very particular in a lot of those regards. So like I'm sure he'll keep a lot of tabs in it if he's ever involved in matches like that. So I mean, that's kind of a good thing that we'll see ultimately, I think, but no, like the telegraph stuff is it can be a little much. Overall though, what did you before we get into more matches, what did you think of the show in general as it delivered for week 1 of Fyter Fest?
By and large, I thought it was good. I thought it was a step in the right direction. I love having Jericho on commentary. Obviously, Tony Schiavone, Jim Ross, they're next level. Excalibur, I think he's improving his game weekly. So I think that overall the presentation is really really great. I wish that and I'm coming back to this for just another minute. I wish that they would take more notes from old school wrestling and say like, you know what, not every match has to have a bunch of false finishes. Not every match has to have a bunch of high spots for the sake of high spots. Use them sparingly and they will mean way more. And I understand it from the talent's perspective where they're saying, hey, I only get so much screen time and I want to get all my SHIT in, right?
What's that spell?
Do you have to bleep SHIT if I spell it out? I have no idea.
No.
Nah, you probably should. I don't know. But I know that they all want to get their high spots in and, they want to maximize their time on TV. But the thing is, some people are meant to be mid-carders and some people are always going to be mid-carders. And that's okay. That's the way that wrestling always has been and always should be. Not everybody should be trying to get themselves over every time they know that the camera's pointed at them. Sometimes you got to get the other people over, and that's it just is what it is. It's a job. So I'm hoping that these guys kind of wise up a little bit as they go. I'm hoping that the booking gets better as they go. But by and large, Dom, I think it's the best pro wrestling on TV right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you too, and that's why I was kind of shocked these past 2 weeks. NXT has beaten them, like in the ratings, like this week too. They beat them last week and they beat them this week, and NXT's been pretty solid from what I've heard. Typically, I'm always tuned into Dynamite when Wednesdays roll around, so I don't really watch a whole lot of that, only if it's like significant. But I mean, it's just kind of a weird thing because I really did not expect them to lose the ratings, like especially they were up a good considerable amount of numbers, and now they're just getting beat. Like it was close, but I mean they lost. So do you attribute that to anything? Do you think? I mean, I know you don't watch NXT either, but is there something that maybe sticks out to you that like this could maybe be a factor in what's going on with them, or why the viewership is changing?
I think that what AEW has been doing thus far is remarkable, just based solely on the fact that they're coming head to head against a company. And let's face it, this is WWE. They can call it NXT all they want. It's WWE. And AEW is coming head to head with a company that's got decades of experience in advertising and marketing. decades of experience in the pro wrestling business, obviously, and by and large, week by week, they tend to beat them. And so what AEW has done thus far has been absolutely remarkable. And yeah, every once in a while you're gonna take an L. I don't who knows what you can attribute it to. Maybe WWE advertised it a little bit more. Maybe it's inaccurate. Maybe it's some kind of a weird anomaly. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, man, where I'm blown away by what they've done so far in the ratings, and I expect it to get better and better to the point where they might actually say, hey, screw it, let's try Monday nights. Let's reignite the Monday Night War eventually.
Who knows what's going to happen, down the line. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different questions that can come into play with what it is. I mean, AEW ultimately still won the 18 to 45 demographic, and that's the main demographic that, the television advertisers are searching for. So that's the plus. But no, it's just very interesting. And then seeing with, guys like Moxley's not going to be on next week because of the COVID-19, Renee having COVID-19. So that's got delayed a week. Who knows what's going to happen next week in regards to how the ratings are going to be, because even WWE, NXT might have spoiled their main event next week, but who knows? Like, there was a picture that surfaced online of somebody holding up the titles that are going to be on the line. So, but they're curious if it's a red herring or something else too. But it's crazy. Let's talk about this though. Cody Rhodes with the TNT title, and just Cody's trajectory of being, a top star in AEW. Obviously, how have you feel they have handled him, and how have you felt that he's handled himself throughout this whole process so far?
I think for the most part it's been good. Cody is probably, I would say that he's the biggest baby face in pro wrestling right now, or the most over baby face. Yeah, I suppose you could say. Even though when there aren't crowds there, it's really hard to gauge who is or is not over. I think it's pretty safe to say that Cody is about as over as you get as baby face. So there's that. As far as the TNT title is concerned, I mean, we all know what this is. Arn Anderson is his manager. Arn Anderson very famously held an incredibly red-looking television title back in the day with WCW or NWA or whoever.
Promotions.
Yeah, whoever it was at the time. It's a TV title, and some genius at AEW said, like, hey, how about instead of calling it the television title, we go with the television station that we're on, kiss up to the execs a little bit and call it the TNT title. And so I'm sure that everybody in the boardroom said hurrah, and it was a home run in their opinion. I think it's a little bit dumb, just call it the TV title, but it's fine. The company needed a secondary title like that. It's a good idea, and Cody's the perfect guy. Defending it every week, I think, is a cool idea, especially if they do it, keep introducing talent like Ricky Starks every once in a while. Bringing a new face in there, and let's see what people have got. I'm kind of hoping, Dominic, and I don't know, maybe this is an off the wall thought. I know that Tessa Blanchard is now a free agent. I know she's got a lot of bad press, but I also know that her father works for the company and could probably pull a couple strings with Tony Khan. I would love to see her come in and try to challenge for the TNT title against Cody Rhodes.
You would want an intergender?
Yep, her first match in. Let's have her challenge Cody Rhodes. Let's have her put on a heck of a show against Cody. Obviously, I want Cody to go over, but then she moves on to the women's division. I just think it would be cool. It's such a cool statement for her to make in her debut. Hey, I was beating up the guys over at Impact. I'm going to come try it here. Oh, I lost. All right, women's division. I just think it'd be really cool.
That's interesting. I'm not like the biggest advocate of it. I mean, I get it. And I think you could maybe, we talked about this on the podcast way back when. I think you can pull it off in certain moments in time, but I don't think intergender wrestling is something that should be like something of a consistent thing. That's intriguing. That's intriguing. All right.
In small spurts, it can be pretty wonderful. I remember thinking it was pretty neat back in the day when Jeff Jarrett put over China for the Intercontinental Championship.
Was cool. Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's really cool. And that's use it just like that. A one-off kind of a deal, which obviously that wasn't a one-off. She was the champ for a little bit, but it was kind of like a one-off big pop event, and then she's the champion. But in this case, a one-off, hey, here's her debut. She's not afraid to come in the ring with anybody. And she could even have a couple false finishes on Cody, make it look really good, couple like roll-ups and like almost catch him a couple times. And then, okay, Cody goes over. like a gentleman. He'll win on like a schoolboy or something. He's not gonna just nail her with the fighter.
Yeah.
He'd win it with like a schoolboy or something. They hug afterwards. She goes to the women's division and injects them with some much needed experience. She might be one of the best female wrestlers in the world today, and AEW could use a good female wrestler right now.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts too, ultimately, on the women's division. How have you thought it's been in comparison to like, what WWE has done over the course of the past 5 years, nearly with NXT and all that? Is there what do you like? What stands out to you in the women's, or who even? But what also do you think they need to work on?
I don't think it's good at all. I think that they've got a lot of ladies that are really green. I think that Britt Baker is the highlight without a doubt. She's great. I love her as a heel. At first, I was
Also,
like, oh,
Pittsburgh.
yes. Oh, these Pittsburgh names. I thought she was junk on the mic. At first, as a heel, I was like, oh God, get a live mic away from her. But the more she does it, the more I become endeared by it, and I really like whenever she gets the mic. She's very entertaining. So I think that she's the highlight. Other than that, it's not good. Everybody's pretty green, which is why Britt Baker got hurt, by the way. And but I do think that they've got a couple of other great prospects. That Chris Statlander, I think she's awesome. I love Chris Statlander.
What
She's
do you think
very,
about the
very
whole alien thing, though? I'm curious about that. What do you think about
I don't,
that?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's kind of a cool gimmick.
Yeah.
Why not? But she thinks she's an alien. That's a fine gimmick, sure. More than that, though, I think that she shows a ton of potential in the ring. I think that once she gets a little bit more experience, she's going to be quite something. And then Penelope Ford, I think it would be the other highlight for me. Obviously, she had a match, but she's also green. But man, she is an athlete. And I think she's going to be something good if she puts in the time.
I think she's got a presence about her too that really stands out. And her teaming up with Kip Sapien too. I think it's a nice balance of like personalities together there. I do agree with you. I feel that there's a lot of holes in the women's division in regards to how it's delivered, I guess, in a lot of ways. I don't feel like, I feel there's a lot of room for ring work that needs to be addressed. They have some personalities. I think they can get highlighted a little bit more. And yeah, they do need to charge up. They need an I don't want to say a name, but somebody that's really gonna establish that women's division. And I think Britt Baker is one of them. And I like Akira Shida too. I think she's got a good presence about her without speaking a whole lot or doing anything like that. I feel that she's got a great look about her that exudes championship material too. But I think those stars and those everything kind of needs to align for it to all kind of work out in a lot of ways. And you just tune in and you see what they have on NXT with women and everything like that, and it's so much more polished and their personas are more defined. I feel in contrast to AEW. The stuff is there, but they got to kind of build up a little bit better, I would say. Yeah.
How do you compete with WWE in the women's division when they'll have Ronda Rousey come in for a spell, an incredible athlete like her, she comes in for a spell, and you've got probably the greatest female wrestler in the history of the business. I think it's safe to say, in Charlotte. She's unbelievable in the ring, and it's the entire rest of the division in WWE could be absolute junk. If you've got Charlotte there, she's gonna make everybody else shine. And so they need their version of that, which is why Tessa Blanchard is, I think, a necessity right now for them. I think that they need to do everything they possibly can to sign her. Hey, she's got some character issues, it seems. Tony Khan needs to have a very frank discussion with her right out of the gate, maybe even have her dad in the room and say, look, here's our expectations from you. And you need to match our expectations if you want to continue to work and make good money in this business. So I hope it happens. I think it'd be neat to see her challenge Cody, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
It's really interesting. Let's transition over to this. So we got a few more minutes. What do you feel? How do you like how they've handled Orange Cassidy? And are you kind of invested and excited about his matchup with Jericho next week too.
So I think by and large, Orange Cassidy is really entertaining. It's a really tough one, because I was just talking about how I don't want to get slapped in the face with the fact that it's scripted. And his character 100% does that, but he injects enough entertainment to make it like I'm annoyed by this, but I'm not going to stop watching because it's cracking me up at times too.
Yeah.
So it's his. I think that they keep saying that they want to have something for everyone, right? And I think that he represents that. If you want to have that kind of silliness in it, then okay, him and the best friends are where it's at. But I think that should be it on the show. It should be that. Okay. Oh, here's our little like perfect breath of fresh air. Okay, let's have some fun for a sec, laugh it off, and then let's get back into the fray. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how it should be. Unfortunately, it's not quite how it is because of all the darn high spots, which also take you out of it. So I wish that they could narrow it down a little bit, but Orange Cassidy, it's hard not to like him. As far as his feud with Jericho is concerned, I understand why they're doing it. I just think it's a weird pairing. They're doing it because they're both pretty hot in the business right now, which I understand, but it is a weird pairing. I don't like the idea of seeing Jericho sell a lot of his stuff, but it is what it is.
Something that I do like how they handle Orange Cassidy, and I like Orange Cassidy just in package too. I thought I was a little like trepidatious when they announced that not that I didn't like what he was, but I thought I was a little trepidatious in the fact that they signed him and how are they exactly going to utilize him? And some of the way they utilized him overall, I would give him probably like an A- in how they've handled him and his character in a lot of ways. Because some of it's a little ridiculous. Like when I was watching Double or Nothing with the ladder match, and he was just like kind of screwing with the ladder, not stay like he had it on its back, the ladder on its back. He wasn't, and he was like standing and reaching. I was like, that's kind of ridiculous and dumb in a lot of ways. And some of this stuff, I'll get to that in a second. But how they do, like when he gets those bursts of like energy and motivation to like do shit and like attack and really go on the offense, something. And he has a fire like that fighting spirit almost that you see in like Japan in a lot of ways. And I think that's super cool aspect of it. It's almost like a werewolf thing in a way, where the full moon comes out and he charges up and gets going. I think that's a pretty neat aspect that they've added to him. And because he shows that he can do that and he can go like crazy if he really wants to. So I do like it, and I think the pairing is appropriate with Jericho and him because it's like you have your top star undoubtedly is Chris Jericho, and you want to line those stars up, those growing stars up with those other stars so they get the rub, and you can always address that or look back at the history of your product when you go back to it too. I think it adds to the level, and I think they complement one another very well. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they handle the match next week. I think it'll be a big ratings moment for them. So I'm pretty intrigued by it. Yeah, I like where that's going. Let's see. Is there anything else in particular with this episode you want to touch upon that stood out to you, or that you wanted to make note of?
Yeah, the Cody and Jake Hager match. I thought that was great. Good match. I think that those two have some great chemistry. Cody gave what I think is probably the best Cody cutter I've ever seen in that match.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely nailed it. Jake Hager sold it perfectly. I think Jake Hager, again, he's another one of those guys. Like, couldn't you see a really good feud down the road between himself and Wardlow?
Sure, yeah.
That would be quite something to see those two get in the ring and kind of butt heads. But they've got to be smart about this. Don't give it away on TV. Have a build up to it. Do like a bunch of tag matches and keep teasing that they're going to come in the ring and face each other and just keep blowing it off that way until finally it's just inevitable. This unstoppable force, immovable object type deal. And let me say, if ever they're going to get to the point where they want to put the strap on Wardlow, I think that Jake Hager, with his in-ring ability and the way he sells and everything about him, I think that he would be a good transitional champion on the way to that. So
Yeah.
yes. So definitely something to think about. But yeah, it's as of right now, I think the best wrestler in the company, like the best physical attributes and overall everything he presents,
Package.
exactly the full package, might be Jake Hager.
Really?
I
I
think he's awesome.
disagree. I mean, I think he's talented and everything like that. From a personality perspective, I think I need to see a little bit more from him. But
Well,
otherwise,
the
he's
fact
pretty
that
darn
his
talented.
smoking hot wife, is coming out and showing a lot of attitude. I think that they might be on the right track. He might not be the best on the mic. So give him somebody who maybe has a lot of attitude, and who knows, maybe his wife is it.
Yeah. Real quick, what do you think of Taz's promo that he did?
Oh man, dude, I thought it was awesome. I saw somebody online had compared it to Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar if you got him off of Wish. And it's like, man, if that's what you're seeing when you're looking at that, then I think you're looking for the wrong stuff. Because
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, that's not what their presentation is at all. So might as well wipe the slate on that. Taz is a former badass in his own right, and
Right.
he's saying that the man standing behind him is where it's at now. And so like that's the kind of thing that made it like let's pretend that this is boxing and Mike Tyson is in the ring and he's like, I was the baddest man on the planet, and this guy standing right behind me is the new baddest man on the planet. Everybody'd be like, oh man, okay,
Yeah.
and that's how you have to look at it. Let's not compare him to Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. Let's look at it for what the presentation is.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly it, man. And it made me a little bit more pumped up about the whole him and Moxley thing in our future.
Yeah, no, I liked it, and I think Brian Cage too shows that he can talk to, and so and Lesnar could talk to, but Lesnar doesn't. That's just part of his thing. But Cage has the capability. I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to do so too. And yeah, that pairing is really awesome. It's like something that I look forward to watching week in and week out on Dynamite. Let's see.
Dom, yes. Who do you dislike after enough time spent watching Dynamite? Who is it that and you can say it diplomatically if you feel you need to, but who is it that you are not crazy about right now on the program?
On the program, um, boy, there's nobody that's like I don't think, honestly, there's not anybody on the show that I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch that person, or I got to change the channel, or like I can walk away from this. Nobody's like really like got me to that point, where it's like I think a lot of talents have not been heated up properly to the extent that they should be, and I feel that they need to address those. Like guys like Pride are Proud and Powerful. Like I feel that they should be getting a lot more wins, and they should be one of the top tag teams there because it's like those guys are on there. They're amazing. Like they're an amazing, like they got a great look. They're great in the ring. They have personalities. It's like they should not just be like kind of jobbing out and enhancing other talent at this moment. Like even if you have the top teams in like FTR and Young Bucks and stuff like that, I feel like they should be right up there with them. You have like Butcher and Blade where they're like supposed to be. I love their look and I love what they bring out, and it's just like why are you making them at this other level? They don't seem on the level of the Young Bucks or FTR, where like I think your tag team division is as capable of being that strong. You should put them all in that kind of position to be in that light. Do you kind of have that vibe too, or am I off base?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think they've got enough talent in the tag team world there that it could be another uprising of the Edge Christian, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys. How entertaining and how excited you would get back in the day when those matches were coming on. I think that if they book it correctly with the talent they have, we could be right back there feeling those feelings again. The problem I see is that everybody, again, too many high spots, and you get lost in the match that way. Like, for example, I love Private Party as athletes. I think they're incredible athletes, but like, it's going to be a big old spot fest every time they hit the ring. And, there's only so many times you can see that kind of stuff before you just become numb to it. And it's like, they call them high risk maneuvers. And you're like, it looks like maybe the guy doing it is in more danger of legitimately hurting himself than he is his kayfabe hurting his opponent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I see that
from that storyline perspective, from the television product. Those moves never really work out because how many times do people kick out? It's like all the time. So
right. So you're like, what's the point? If you get a pinfall every once in a while after one, then you'd be like, okay, I get it. But nobody. When was the last time you saw a pinfall following one?
From some of those amazing moves that they pull off, like it's like
right.
It's like, how did the hell did you just do that? That should be the match should be over, but it's not.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean that kind of stuff drives me nuts. I like the pairing. I like the what do they call them? The Jurassic Express. I like those three. I'm not crazy about Luchasaurus and the way that he presents himself or is presented, whatever the case may be. He's like a big athletic guy. I hate how often he slaps his thigh when he's striking. It drives me absolutely bonkers. And I don't like the fact like he should be one of those guys who's like craving contact, not the kind of guy who's like flipping and jumping over people and doing all the athletic stuff, which is okay. It's incredible that a guy your size can do that, but like just truck him over. Don't jump over him, light him up. If I were as big as you and I was in a fight, I wouldn't be like, ooh, like ducking contact or like flipping onto somebody. I'd be clubbing them to death. So so he actually annoys me more than Marco Stunt, which I know a lot of people are very out on Marco Stunt, but I'm like, his look is perfect to go with like Jungle Boy and to just be like the little guy in the Jurassic Express, like a little jungle creature.
Like Spike Dudley, he's got the Spike Dudley.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I Luchasaurus annoys me way more than Marco Stunt, but by and large, I think that they've got a solid tag team division. They just need to make some improvements.
I can't let you go either without this. Like, you're a big Jake Roberts fan. How do you feel he's been doing with Lance Archer, and how's that all been going for you? Have you been liking that vibe and how they present him?
Yeah, man, it's been something. It's been something. I really like the pairing. Jake, if anybody knows how to get psychology going and get somebody over, it's Jake Roberts. And that guy is on top of it. I love this stuff between him and Arn Anderson, who, by the way, would never wrestled a match against each other ever in their entire careers. They both like utilize the DDT. Like it feels like this is something that should have happened back in the '80s, and it's finally happening right now, where they're like button heads. And I don't know, man. I love the fact that they're paying respect to a lot of the legends and helping a guy like Jake Roberts continue to make money in the wrestling business today, especially with how talented he is.
That's what I love about AEW too, and like people are really like, there's some WWE loyalists out there that are just like, oh, like, well, like they're just following what WWE's doing, or like this is this and this is that. But you know what? You never see WWE, especially Vince McMahon when he's got his finger on everything, is you never see them pay tribute to the legends, and that's something that AEW has been overly insistent about, is doing all that stuff. So it's just been very cool to see. Even if you bring somebody in for like a one shot like Bret Hart, like they had, or DDP for those couple weeks and stuff like that, it's like
Billy Gunn back in the ring, who's still
Billy. Yeah. And like you did, and when he fought MJF, he didn't lose clean. Like there was some nefarious means in ways he lost. So I just thought it was. Right. It's just they treat the legends very well, I feel. So I think that's good. Overall, Marcus, we'll close out with this. So me and you, when like everything started getting announced about AEW and that they would have their own weekly show and stuff like that, we were all pretty excited about it. Like not just us, but wrestling fans in general too. But like I know me and you were particularly excited about it, and like them delivering a week after week after week product. Has it overall lived up to your expectations? And what would you like to see more come from it?
So yeah, for the most part, I would say that it has lived up to my expectations. My expectations were WCW Nitro. That's what I wanted to see. And a lot of people put Nitro on this pedestal where they say like, oh, it's something like AEW. It's they're not there. They don't have the talent. They don't have this or that. You could argue that they have just as much talent there right now. And by the way, go back and watch some of those Nitro episodes. A lot of them were great. A lot of them were absolute garbage. So that's something you're just going to find in pro wrestling, and it is what it is. You'll find that in WWE. Go back to your favorite age of WWE. Like give me an era. You could say 1992. how about the Warrior throwing up all over himself after he got a voodoo curse put on him? You know, there was crap in every era of professional wrestling. It's just a matter of sifting through it and finding the good stuff that's in there too. So yeah, man, it's lived up to what I expected. I think that they could improve. As I said, by let's cut. Don't eliminate the high spots, but use them in the same way that WCW did. Okay, let's wake the crowd up. Opening match. Let's get everybody very alert and very awake, and then knock it off because not everybody has to do it. You know, so bring it out for the first match. Do one tope suicida, and let's call it good.
Let's
all right,
call it night.
We don't need like 4 of them per match. You know, these guys. I understand that. Like I said, they want to get all their stuff in, but you know, let's maximize it to its fullest potential without killing it.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel another big aspect that they got to be mindful of is lighten up, like pick and choose your moments to add humor and comedy into it. You don't want to overdo it. And I feel there's some times where it's a little much here and there with some of the comedy that they try to put in there. Like it's some of it's a little too tongue in cheek where you can get away with it, you can do it, but just be a little bit more selective about it and choose the right moments, because some of it I does feel affects the star level you want some of your talent to get off as, you know. So it's like, yeah. I think that it suffers to that detriment, and that's one criticism I have. And then the fact too, but overall, yeah, no, I think it's every week it feels like an event to tune into. Like it feels like you're getting an experience that's like important, you know, and you don't have we haven't had that kind of feeling in wrestling in a long time. So it's just like the incentive to tune in week in and week out has been very, very high consistently on a consistent basis. And I feel that's something that they've been very well at doing, but they still need to cultivate it. And I think they just have to tighten the ship up a little bit in regards to like, let the talent express themselves, let them have their creative freedom, but you want to channel it in the right direction, that it's all to attain one goal, one primary goal. And I don't think they're quite there yet. I think that I'm optimistic that they'll get there. So yeah, no, it's been this week was pretty good overall. What would you rate this week out of a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd give it a solid. I'd give it a solid 7 or 8, somewhere in there. Yeah, maybe that's generous. I was hoping you were gonna do like a grade system. You know, I was gonna say a B, which not a B minus, not a B plus, just a B. I thought it was an overall solid program. A couple things could have stood to have been tightened up. I did want to say, what about you, Dom? And then I do want to say one last thing.
What's my rating?
Yeah.
I would give it, I liked it. I'd give it about an 8.2. I'll give it an 8.2. Yeah, I liked it.
I gave an amateur score. You gave the pro an 8.
I do the pizza review or the whatever it is, that kind of score level. So
yes. The last thing I want to say, as far as them improving, Dom, another thing I'd like to see them do is, you know, there's always been this unwritten rule in professional wrestling. I think Vince McMahon wrote this rule, let's face it, where you don't acknowledge the competition ever. But let me tell you, man, when Jericho came out and did that promo about we're not next, we're now, and anytime they do like these little call outs and jabs at WWE, it's been awesome. I'm not saying do it every episode, but like go ahead and do it, because right now wrestling fans are very, very annoyed with professional wrestling, especially what's going on in WWE. It just reeks of sellout. Vince McMahon's got his hands in too many things. Let's start calling them out. Let's bring in guys that have been released, like Carl Anderson and what's his face there,
Doc Gallows.
Yes, and Doc Gallows. Let's bring those guys in, who, by the way, signed a contract with WWE, and WWE just like kicked them to the curb. You know, where they could have gone somewhere else. WWE was like, no, we need you here. We want you here. They sign them and then release them 3 months later or something.
Yeah.
So bring them in and give them a live mic and say, have at it. Say whatever you want to say. What's been on your mind about this whole thing. Let's bring them in. Let's bring in Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. Like I would love to see a little bit more calling out the competition, because let's face it, they're not doing it over there. Let's be different.
You know, they did it 3 separate times too on Dynamite. If you noticed this week, they did it with MJF, acknowledged the ratings war, in his opening promo. Cody Rhodes came out with the Great American Bash style T-shirt of his name, which was awesome. Awesome. And then Taz was like, "We don't run a sloppy ship over here in regards to their testing." But then some kind of news broke out later on that like some audience members weren't tested and stuff like that. But still, cool digs, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get going. Let's not do it too often because then it becomes boring. But let's do it often enough that we can keep
pick and
things.
choose, just like everything else. Pick and choose moves, like opportunities, comedy, all that stuff. You pick and choose those elements, and there's nothing wrong with mixing all that in there. It blurs the lines in a time where it's very hard to blur the lines. So
and most importantly, man, call them out on their crap.
Yes,
because let's face it, it's crap right now over there at WWE.
Yeah, I agree, man. There's a lot of stuff that you can. So many years there's been people wanting to bitch about WWE, and it's like you don't have anything else. If you're a wrestling fan, you can just tune out of wrestling at that point, but you don't. Like you want something else that you can be like, okay, well I have this to fall back on. But like it sucks when the only primary product is not delivering, isn't listening to you necessarily.
Right.
And WWE's done that year after year after year. And finally, they got some little competition, and it's cool to see this back in the thick of things. So, Mark, your Twitter handle will be right below you, so feel free to point down on your left-hand side. That's where your Twitter handle will be. But is there anything else you want to plug?
Nope, that is it. Nothing else I want to plug. Check me out on Twitter. For some reason, my name is still Keystone MPD. I need to change it. So yeah, check me out on Twitter.
You should do that before you get the blue check mark too.
Right. I'll get it changed. I do tend to share a lot of funny things, some great animal videos. So if you're into that, then cool. If not, it's fine. I don't care. And Dominic, how do they find you? Your Legion.
So they find me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. It's right below. And then just go to WrestleZone.com. Every weekday, I'll be on there at some point or another, whether that's in the morning or in the mid-afternoon. I just had an interview with AJ Kirsch of MLW. He's the co-commentator, but he released a Black Lives Matter shirt in regards to, and it has the ECW vibe. So it's BLFNM, so it's in that classic ECW lettering. And all those proceeds at his T-shirt go to Black Lives Matter. I've also, who else did I interview recently? There's been a few interviews, but catch me on the Daily, WrestleZone Daily with Robert DeFelice and Kevin Kellum. They do a great job. And then give WrestleZone a follow on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. Subscribe to this channel, YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast feed. Get all your information. We got a lot of great interviews up there. Bill Pritchard's been doing some really good ones. Lisa Marie Varon, as people know as Victoria from WWE, she was just on there. A lot of good ones. Madman Fulton. More coming up, hopefully. So there we go. That's how you do it here, Marcus. That's how you get the plugs in. So yeah,
we went long, but we did it.
We hashed it out. We got it together. This is the pilot episode, so it's all right. It went a few minutes over. So, but next week we'll be at it again. We'll plan around it later on in the end of the week. This won't be a weekend thing. This is just a one-time kind of gig. So, but So thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.